Welcome, one and all, to another edition of Ask a Ghost Hunter with me, your host, Rick Hale. Before we get started and we address a question that I get answered, or rather asked quite a bit on podcasts and even by friends and family, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who is following this page and for everyone who is subscribing and watching the videos that I put on here, either Ask a Ghost Hunter or on the road with Rick and Ray and the paranormal. Thank you so much. It's made that transition from doing a weekly podcast to doing something a little bit more like this so much easier. So I just wanted to say thank you so much again to everyone, for all my new followers and for everyone who watches. You are the reason that I do this. I don't do this for myself. I do it for you. Because I really hope that I can impart some kind of knowledge, and I hope that people will learn a little bit of something, because there's just a lot out there in the paranormal field that, a lot of mixed messages and things that don't quite make a whole lot of sense. So again, thank you so much. And on with the show. So a question that I get asked quite a bit whenever I do a podcast, or even from friends and family that know that I'm into this, they ask, Rick, how old were you when you did your very first investigation, and what was that like? Well, my very first investigation, I like to say, was very much a baptism by fire. Not too many people have to deal or have had to deal with what I had to deal with on a very first investigation. But it was in the summer of, actually September of 1991. I was 17 years old. And I need to give people a little bit of context with this, because back then I was a much different person than I was today. I went through this, I guess, phase, 4-year phase from 1990 to about 1994, where I was involved in an evangelical fundamentalist movement. And so although I still had my interest in the paranormal, it was kind of filtered through a more biblical mindset. And it wasn't until 1994 when I went through a deconversion phase. And it was a good thing that I did, because at that time, I lost a lot of friends, and I lost the world. And it took me a long time to regain that. So, just lost people that I loved because of my behavior. So I just wanted to get that out of the way as a little bit of context for the story that I'm about to tell you with my very first investigation. So it was in September of 1991. Like I said, I was 17 years old, and it was at night, and I was hanging out with my girlfriend at the time, and I get a call from an older female friend of mine. We'll call her Lucy, and Lucy had a really bizarre story to tell, and it immediately hooked me when she was telling me on the phone. Lucy was involved in a church ministry that helped kids, or teenagers, get out of a cult or occult situation. And recently a young girl came to live with her. We'll name her Tina. And Tina brought with her some very bizarre baggage. She had helped other teens in the past, before Tina, and this was the first time that she ever dealt with anything that was paranormal or supernatural. While talking on the phone with her, she explained to me that almost as soon as Tina came to live with her and her family, she had 3 kids and a husband. Weird things were happening in the house. You would hear like knocks on the wall. Things would move around of their own, what it seemed like to be of their own will, whenever Tina was present. And she also said that there was this weird cold breeze that would blast through the house, kind of whip around, and then just disappear as soon as it appeared. So it was like I was immediately hooked. I said to my girlfriend, Lucy needs me, and she's having some weird stuff going on in her house. I'm pretty sure that my girlfriend uh, didn't really want me going. I think she was very much angry that I was giving up time with her to go look into this kind of thing. Um, so she agreed, and I took her home and drove over to Lucy's house. I met Tina. She was a young girl. She was probably about a year younger than me, so she was 16. And we sat down in the front room or living room area, and she had a very, like, Tina had a very bizarre story to tell. She had come from a different state, and she was brought there by cover of night and to Lucy's house. And she told me that the state that she was from, the town that she was from, she was very much involved in what was a satanic sex cult. They performed animal sacrifices to the devil, and they would have orgies. And she had become pregnant with the leader of the cult's child, and she knew that she was in a bad situation and she needed to leave immediately because she was completely intent on giving birth to this child despite the circumstances, and because she had given herself to Christ, and she didn't want to give it up for adoption or have an abortion. Now, like I already mentioned, at this time I was going through a fundamentalist evangelical stage. So this was still very much during the time of the satanic panic of the late 80s, or mid to late 80s and early 90s, where everybody believed that there was this satanic conspiracy theory of them wanting to take over the country and turn everybody away from God, and we really kind of came to discover that that wasn't true. And even though that was something that I did believe at the time, I was very skeptical about what Tina had to tell me. It just didn't add up, didn't make any sense. But I was asked to come there and listen to her story and watch and see if anything like that would happen. And I wasn't disappointed, guys. Some stuff did happen. So everybody had gone to bed, and Tina was sleeping on a couch in this like room that was off of the kitchen and the dining room. And I want you to keep something in mind. This was a double wide mobile home, and it was in September, like mid-September. So it's in northern Illinois. Mid-September is still pretty hot. And so it was very, very hot in this double wide mobile home. And I'm sitting there in the chair, listening for anything, any kind of the knocks or whatever that, had been reported to me. And I heard a few like little knocks on the house, but I'm like, okay, maybe that's just the house settling, and it's really, nothing to be too concerned about. And so I'm walking around in the front room area, and all of a sudden I hear Tina say, "They're here." And I'm like, who is that? So earlier in the evening, Tina had explained to me that she was cursed by the leader of this group with these shadow-like beings that were going to follow her everywhere that she went, and were tormenting her and saying mean and terrible things to her and telling her how horrible she was for leaving the group. And she was convinced that these were demonic entities. And when she said that they were here, I got up and I walked to where Tina was sleeping on this couch, and I'm standing there. And all of a sudden, I could feel like this cold just come from nowhere and just filled the room. Like it was hot where I had been previously sitting, but it was incredibly cold in this room. and actually in the general area where I was standing. So I start addressing these beings that she said was in the house. And I start speaking very harshly to it. Today we call that provoking the spirits. So I was doing this way before Zach Bagans or anybody else on TV started doing this. I started demanding that this being show itself, and I started demanding that it proves its existence. And as I was standing there, just talking into basically nothingness, all of a sudden this giant black, like inky black shadow appeared in front of me, just out of nowhere. And the next thing I know, I feel it shove me, and I fell backwards, fell right on my ass. And as it disappeared, I could hear this very sinister laugh. And I thought, oh my God, I had just been attacked by a demon. So the rest of the evening, this was about 2 o'clock in the morning when this happened. So the rest of the night was pretty much without any kind of events. Everybody had fallen asleep. I went back to the chair that I was sitting in, and I had actually fallen asleep and felt no more cold, no more presence, nothing of the sort. And the next morning I was, talking to my friend Lucy, and I'm like, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to get a member of the clergy here to deal with whatever this was that was in the house. And then I left and I went home. And it was a Sunday morning. Went home and, went to church. So, like I said, at that time I was very much involved in this fundamentalist evangelical movement. So, of course, I thought it was a demon. But after I had gone through my deconversion period and looking back on this situation, I don't believe now that what I had dealt with was a demon. I believe that what I had dealt with was absolutely 100%, no doubt in my mind whatsoever, a legitimate poltergeist. I believe that this recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis was, I believe that Tina was a conduit for this psychic energy, and all the stress and horrible things that she had been through was causing the psychic energy to push itself out into the immediate environment. As for the giant shadow that I had seen, and I know that there will be some people who see this who will disagree with me and say that yes, it was a demon that I had dealt with underneath the circumstances. However, there is some precedence in psychical research and investigation of a poltergeist conduit actually forming a thought form, and this uncontrolled psychic energy pushing that thought form out of their mind and into the environment. And I think that that's exactly what it is that I was dealing with. And I would like to use the Black Monk of Pontefract poltergeist as the precedence for that. They were the Pritchard family in 1967. They were experiencing legitimate psychic phenomenon in their house due to a poltergeist through one of the children who was the conduit for this recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. And they had created this black monk entity that was, haunting their house, that they actually blamed it on when it really wasn't that at all. And that's exactly what I feel that I had dealt with. I dealt with a legitimate poltergeist energy, and I had dealt with an actual thought form that was created by Tina. And it is definitely, I really do consider my very first investigation as being a baptism by fire, because it very much was. Most people in the paranormal community will probably never even deal with a legitimate poltergeist. It is extraordinarily rare to deal with an entity like that, or deal with energy like that. But I did, and I will believe it 100% that that's what I dealt with, until the day I die and enjoy and join the spirit realm. I lost track of Tina, after that. She actually went back home. Don't know if she had the baby. Don't know if she got herself involved back in this very bad situation. And although I don't really believe in occult and satanic forces, and I don't believe in anything like that anymore, it's still a very bad situation. And I really hope that she has found peace and safety, and that the baby is safe as well. So that was my very first investigation. Definitely was a doozy, to use a very old-fashioned term. So I want to say thank you so much to everybody who joined me this week on Ask a Ghost Hunter. And we'll be back next week with another question that I get asked quite a bit. And that question is, Rick, are psychics real? And are people born with that ability? Give you a preview. I don't know. I guess you're just going to have to come back next week. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Thank you so much again for everyone who is following my TikTok as well as Instagram as well as Facebook page. Come back next week with a brand new Ask a Ghost Hunter. I'm Rick Hale. Stay spooky, my friends.